Okay, three big events this weekend for Disney Lorcana, including a challenge in Singapore and two CCQs, one in the UK, one in Germany. Both of those with about 250 players, and the challenge with 400. The challenge is a best of one format, so it is a weird one. Only the top 8 was best of 3, but it's still very big and important data, particularly when you consider some of the names that were participating in this event. You've got Ding Kang Fan, Ed Chu as well, so the two World Championship finalists from last year. The whole thing was won by Jacob Frank, who is a member of the Rare Hunters team, which is the team that I'm also part of, so huge shout out to Jacob. He was playing Blurple. The top 8 was best of 3, and the rest of the tournament best of 1. So definitely an unorthodox format. It's quite typical actually for Asian countries to have best of 1 format in trading card games. So this one is using 2 Cheshire Cats. It's got the 1 jump ahead. This is something that's been extremely popular ever since Bologna. We saw the winning deck list in Bologna play a single copy of 1 jump ahead. It's got 4 copies of the Junior Woodchuck Guidebook, but we don't see any Tamatoas in this one, which is something we've seen some players trying. 2 magical maneuvers, 2 Monstros, Demonas in the mix, 1 elephant for Iago as well. So big Dumbo shell, Jacob taking down the whole thing. Big congratulations to him. Thank you to the channel sponsor Card Market. We can see the red purple very, very popular this week in terms of sales. Mowgli's up there as well as Scrooge McDuck, Mickey Mouse, Pluto, Headless Horseman. Let's continue on looking at the top 8 from Singapore. We had Christian, who finished in 2nd place. This is a Amethyst and Steel build. 2 Demonas in here. We see a lot of players sort of like deciding between how many Demonas, Hades and Docks to go for. This one's on 3 Docks, 3 Hades, 2 Demona, 2 Dumbo, 4 Genie. All those sort of card draw cards are the ones that we see the different counts of. And this one's got a lot of flexibility with 1 Pluto Steel Champion. During your turn, whenever one of your other Steel characters banishes another character in a challenge, gain 2 lore. And when you play another Steel character, you may banish a chosen item. Of course, that can be pretty good against the Junior Woodchuck Guidebook, which as a one-off, the Pluto could certainly catch some surprise value. We also see a couple of Dumbo in the mix, 2 Lexington. Very, very interesting build. Olaf is probably a centerpiece card in this one. 4 copies of that. When this character leaves play, you may return chosen character of yours to your hand. That is particularly impressive with the dock, of course. And I do like the 4 copies of the Cheshire Cat when you're playing Strength of a Raging Fire and when you're not ramping. 3rd place, Jenon, very good friend of the channel. Now a double Golden Mickey warrior. Also on the Rare Hunters team, very good friend of mine. He previously won a Golden Mickey, I think in Bochum, playing Emerald Steel. This event was the top 4 players getting Golden Mickeys, and Jenon with Purple Steel. He did message me like a couple days before the event saying, do I play Amber Steel, which is like his usual go-to, but just shows you the flexibility of a player. Someone that's known quite well for playing Amber Steel recently, able to pick up Purple Steel without any issues. At a big event and have an amazing performance. 3 Demona, also that one-off Pluto, which is quite interesting to see the similarities there. I think it might in fact be almost identical to the previous list, but 3 Olaf, it's actually slightly different, isn't it? There's no Dumbos in this one, for example. 3 Demona, 1 Magical Maneuvers, but lots of the same cards, just the ratio is quite different. But yeah, I really like the Olaf and the Doc, this one on no Dumbos whatsoever. 4th place, we have a Emerald and Sapphire player. Just double check. 8th. The 8th place. Okay. We don't have all the data currently, but you can check the link in the description as it gets updated. I'm sure we'll get all of the other lists for you soon. So Emerald Sapphire is a deck that I think has got to still be very good, and 4 copies of Improvise is very, very interesting. Favouring Improvise essentially over Develop Your Brain, which you could play in that same slot. So Improvise obviously going to be good against illusions in particular, but also against like Blurple. This like 6 willpower is quite common in Blurple decks if we take a look, with cards like Demona and the Hades in particular. Of course Iago as well, but the Improvise is great against Iago because of the Vanish. So Improvise particularly good against Iago, but also quite a good way of fixing those breakpoints, getting rid of Demona against Red Purple, also going to be quite important as well. So it's quite interesting to see 4 Improvise in the mix. Of course, the Malicious, Mean and Scary combo with Prince Philip is in there. There's 2 Under the Seas, 1 Mother Knows Best. A couple of Ursula Deceivers, which I'm a little bit surprised by, to be honest. I've never been a big fan of Ursula Deceivers in these like big ramp lists, but it does give you some coverage into like Strength of a Raging Fire, I suppose, would be like your best hit off of that. So quite an unorthodox build, particularly with the Ursula and the Improvise being in there. We've got another Purple Seal, this one also in the top 8. So it looks like we've got the top 8 ones here in no particular order. So these players did not win a Golden Mickey, but they did secure themselves a invitation to the Asian Championships, the Continentals. So this one's on Palace Guard, no Olaf, just 2 Docks, just 3 Cheshire Cats, got the Tinkerbell with a couple of Timothy Q Mouse, 4 Dumbo, so heavy on the Dumbo, 3 Hades, 2 Demona, and a couple of Hypnotic Strength as well. And then Elmeister also finishing in the top 8. Big shout out to Elmeister, also on the Rare Hunters team. So 3 out of the top 8 from the Rare Hunters team, which makes me very happy, and really happy to see Earl doing well. Earl's someone that I've played against many times in Disney Lorcana, and I always had a very good record against him until sort of the last 6 to 7 months, where he really started to beat me way more often than I'm beating him. So Earl's like a massively improved player. I think the most improved content creator in terms of gameplay that I've seen. I think also Lorcana Villain's got to be up there in that conversation. But Earlmeister with such a great result, top 8, qualifying for the Asian Continentals. I'm sure he's extremely ecstatic for that. And also, I'm happy to see it's a 60 card deck because very often he's playing 61 cards, but this is a 60 card deck, which is definitely the correct amount of cards to be playing based on mathematics, right? Like the 61st card you add just dilutes the consistency of the deck, and it makes it less likely that you find your best card in the deck, right? So technically speaking, 60 cards is optimal, and I'm very happy to see 60. It's not a big deal playing 61. Like the maths on it is very negligible, but it's not quite negligible. It's like near negligible, but it's still like, right? It's like, why play 61 when 60 is just better, mathematically speaking? So happy to see that. We do know that Earl likes to play this sort of like toolbox approach with lots of one-offs. It's like a one-off Raja, which is a card I like as a one-off Mayor Wind Dancer as a 5/7 is pretty spicy for sure. Heavy on the Demonas, 1 Goliath as well. So big congratulations to Earl. Also, while we're speaking about Earlmeister and the Rare Hunters, there is a big event happening in a few weeks in Austria, the Enchanted Tour Christmas edition. These are absolutely amazing events, and Matthew Robert Davis, the artist for the Enchanted Elsa and many other Disney Lorcana cards, is going to be at the event doing signings. I'm hoping to attend myself. I'm currently in the process of sorting my visa out in Germany, and it's a bit awkward for me to travel currently, but hopefully I'll be there. I do also have a golden ticket to give away, which is like free entry to the main event, so make sure to be checking out the community page on YouTube. I'll make like a community post of doing some sort of giveaway if you guys are interested in that. But super recommend checking out this event. I think it's going to be an absolute belter. 7,000 euros worth of prizes. So if you're in Europe looking for a nice big event, I think this is going to be a really fun way to celebrate Christmas time with the Disney Lorcana community. Okay, we've got some of the top 16 decks now. I wanted to highlight in particular some of the more unorthodox lists. We will take a look at all of the other decks, colours that made the top 16, because there was a lot of Purple Steel. But rather than spending loads of time looking at Purple Steel, let's take a deeper look at the Blue Steel list, which made the top 16. So Blue Steel, I think, is a fascinating deck. One thing that's very interesting to consider is how many 1-drops you play in a deck like this. We've seen some players playing 0. I think Develop Your Brain is pretty locked in as being good in this deck. And actually the Mulan as an additional 1-drop is quite interesting to see. The Cinderella, of course, a big centerpiece with Goliath and Tinkerbell then being able to be played on your 4th turn, which is really nice. And the Headless Horseman is a huge option in this deck now. When you play this character, each player draws 3 cards and discards 3 cards at random, choose an opposing character and deal 2 damage to them for each action card discarded this way. Big powerhouse removal. 1 Ink Runner. When you play this item, draw a card, and then you can exert it, pay 1 ink, and chosen character gains alert this turn. 2 Beyond the Horizon, 4 Thunderbolts, 4 Strength, 2 Spooky Sights, which was all the talk of the town at the start of the set, but has kind of fallen off quite quickly. But I think that these Blue Steel decks are just great. The one thing I don't like about this is only 3 Vincenzo. I would love to see the 4th Vincenzo in the mix. And maybe whenever I see these decks, I'm always wondering if it would not be better to play an additional 4-drop for a little bit of consistency. The other Blue Steel deck that made the top 16 that I wanted to show you Also on Mulan, but not. Oh, and also playing Develop Your Brain. Has a 1 jump ahead as that 9th ramp, and also does have a few more 4 drops, which I think is definitely the way that I would personally go. I like that there's 4 Vincenzo. I don't love there's only 1 Tinkerbell though, but of course you have to find room for these things somewhere. And the mob song is super unorthodox. Sing together 10, deal 3 damage to up to 3 chosen characters and or locations. I mean, if ever there's a deck that you could play it, it's probably this one with Turbo Ramp and a Mulan to discard it if it's a bit bricky. So certainly very, very interesting. Would I rather play 2 Mob Song or 2 more Tinkerbell? I would probably rather play 2 more Tinkerbell, to be completely honest with you, but it's still an exceptionally interesting option in this deck. There's also Jasmine in there, which can be evasive during your turn. Heavy on the aerials as well. It is very, very interesting to see. So I like the look of these blue steel decks quite a bit. I also wanted to highlight a couple more big name players in the decks that they were playing this weekend. So Federico, in my opinion, one of the best players in the game. He is an Italian player. He's won a challenge and is just consistently at the top tables whenever I'm at events. He's always doing well. So I think Federico is one of the most consistent players in Disney Lorcana. He was playing Purple Steel with 3 Demona. He's a member of World Class Cards. 4 Genie. Iago's in the mix as well. So wanted to highlight Federico's Purple Steel. I also wanted to highlight this deck. Now, this deck made the top 64, so this is the worst performing deck that I'm highlighting, but many of you will recognize this from my LCC tournament. This is very similar to the deck list that I built. Haven't really made a full video on that deck yet, but it will be coming. But this is a deck that I built, and funnily enough, even though it only made the top 64, which is of course not the best result, it was the only deck all weekend that Jacob Frank, the winning player, actually lost to. That's what I've been told by Jenan. Jen said, yep, Jacob lost 1 game all weekend, and guess what? It was against your weird LCC deck. So this is a super aggressive aggro deck. There's a few changes to my list, like they've cut a White Rose, they've cut a Show Me More, which I've got to say I don't like reducing the count of Show Me More. They've added This Is My Family as an additional burn card, which I think is an interesting idea, and also added in 2 Family Fishing Pods, which is a card I love. It's more burn as well. Which is interesting. I'm actually interested in cutting the Webbies entirely from this deck next time I play it. I do actually have a show match against Zach Bivens later, but I've already submitted my list. But yeah, I think it's a very, very good deck. It's extremely cheap, and it's really cool to see that someone brought it to a DLC. So big shout out to Power Pig. And again, only a loss that Jacob had all weekend is what I'm informed. I wanted to show you Dinkham Pham. He finished in the top 64. He played Blurple. Of course, the world champion, always worth taking note to see what he's playing. We have seen Dinkham Pham playing some blue steel at some points, but locking in on Blurple. 2-second start to the right, 1 magical maneuvers, 3 hypnotic strength, a couple of monstro, 4 Vanessa, the Whisper of Vanessa, with boost 1. While there's a card under this character, she gets +1 lore and evasive. So we have 4/5 evasive with the quest for 3. I don't think it's that brilliant, but it's interesting that Kang likes it enough to play 4 copies of it. Very, very interesting for sure. I also want to show you Lucas Calpo, who finished in the top 32. He's my new favourite player. He's also a member of Rare Hunters. He finished in the top 4 at Worlds. Exceptional deck builder. He helped me a lot with my deck building for Milwaukee, where I finished in the top 64. And he actually played probably the most boring deck I've ever seen him play. But the Olaf and Doc combo is very, very good. That's for sure. And I just wanted to highlight his deck as well, because he's a player that I always look out for in these kinds of tournaments. So just to give you a little overview of the rest of the decks that we didn't cover that finished in the sort of top 16, there was a lot of Purple Steel, and then in the top 32 there was 1 Red Purple, at least that we've got access to. We don't have all the data for it currently, but let's move on now to the big CCQs. Starting in Germany, Battle Bear in Stuttgart. Battle Bear, an amazing, amazing store, and they do some on-the-road events. And this was a CCQ at Comic-Con Stuttgart, and Devin won this also with Blurple. So Blurple seeming to be the big winner of the weekend, and this one looking quite similar to Kang's list actually, with that 4 copies of the Ursula Whisper, 1 Demona in the mix, as well as that 1 jump ahead. It's so fascinating how 1 big tournament win totally changed everyone's perception on how many ramp cards to play. This single copy of 1 jump ahead. I think that I'm quite happy personally about it, because I've always liked that additional 1 jump ahead, and it's something that I've mentioned quite a lot on the stream, and that's definitely a hot take I had that's aged very well. Just blow my own trumpet, you got to do it sometimes, right? Royal Guard as a one-off in there. Lots of 4-ofs, which I personally like that approach. Only 3 vision, which I don't dislike either. But yeah, big shout out to Devin, who has qualified for the European Championships with such a win. Dennis finished second with Iago Stomping Mad, a 0-2 with Challenger 5. That is a big static card. And also Elsa Exploring the Unknown. This is basically Maleficent from set 1. When you play this character, you may draw a card. Of course, Maleficent had a 2-2 stat line. This is a 1-3. We see 2 copies of Mare Winddancer in the mix, 2 Hades, 2 Ursula Whispers as well. And also 2 copies of the Great Illuminary location. This is a very interesting location. It costs 2, costs 1 to move there, and has 3 willpower. And characters there gain, you can exert them to draw a card. Very, very cool to see a couple copies of that in the mix. We've got an Emerald Sapphire deck from Nicholas. This finished 3rd. And I have to say, I like the look of this one a little bit more. Not playing any Improvise, a couple, Develop Your Brains. I like the Cinderella in this deck. I like the Donald Duck. I like the John Silver. One-off Fred is very, very interesting, and one-off Max Goof. These are maybe the 2 things I don't love, but I mean, as one-offs, they give you a lot of utility. Max Goof you can't shift in this deck, so I feel like it can't really be worth it. But whenever this character quests, you may play a song card with cost 4 or less from your discard for free, then put it on the bottom of your deck instead of your discard. You do have a good amount of targets. Your Welcome in particular is brilliant. Malicious, Mean and Scary for the combo, and Mother Knows Best as well. The problem I would have with Max Goof in this deck, right, is like you have to play it down and then a turn later it quests. So it's very slow to get going. I mean, as a one-off, you can't go too wrong, but would I rather have a one-off Max Goof or like a 4th John Silver or 4th Basil? I'd probably just rather have the 4th Basil or John Silver. And then a one-off Fred. Again, you can't shift it in this deck, so it's going to be a 7 ink card that you just play down on the board. And whenever this character quests, reveal the top card of your deck until you reveal a Floodborn character, put that card into your hand. So quite slow as well to get going. Would I rather have that or the 4th Basil? I would definitely rather just play the 4th Basil. 4 Hades, 3 Basil. I would, again, probably rather have 4 Basil, 3 Hades. So I like this deck a lot. There's just a couple of small things which I think are slightly suboptimal, but that's just my opinion, right? I'm obviously extremely opinionated, and I'm not always right with my opinions. I just think it's more interesting that I give you my honest opinions on decks. Of course, this is a brilliant list that's done exceptionally well from Nicholas, so big shout out to them. Marvin, I'm going to assume finished 4th. They certainly did. I'm going to ask Inkdex if they can display the placing on this. I actually messaged them a while ago, like a week ago, saying, could you guys show how many players are at a tournament on the screenshot? But I think it replaced the position. So if we could get the position they finished, and this will be great. Then I don't have to scroll up. But yeah, Ruby Amethyst, I think, is a great deck. Probably going to struggle against Blurple, which seems to have a bit of a resurgence this week. Maybe with the fact that Ruby Amethyst is so popular. If, again, we look at Card Market, thanks for sponsoring. We can see that Ruby Amethyst really is popular in terms of the cards sold this week. So I think that Blurple seems like a really good metacal as a result. And this deck's just great, right? The Tinkerbell's brilliant, the Diablo's brilliant. You have 2 of the best turn 1 and turn 2 plays in the game. And honestly, the Cheshire Cat on 3, right? Like 1, 2, 3 curve, it doesn't really get much better than that. And of course, you've got Genie, Iago, Dumbo on 4, Elsa on 5. The big weakness of this deck is going to be against Blurple, where they're ramping. Also, like aggro decks can definitely go under this, but the Hades is in there, the Headless Horseman, the Demona. It's a greedy deck, but very solid and very fair deck as well. Amethyst Steel from Lewis. This one is not playing any Olafs. It's got Demona and 3 Hades in the mix. We're going to see lots of Purple Steel, so we won't focus too much on it, but interesting to see the other builds. Another Purple Steel. This one is playing Olaf with 3 docks. It's also got 3 copies of Jasmine, which is probably the most unorthodox thing in this particular list. But this one's heavy on the 4 counts of cards, which is going to give you a lot of consistency. We've got Mark on Emerald Sapphire. I'm guessing this is still top 8. 7th place. This one is on the Cindy and the Donald, which is how I like it. 2 Max Goof and 2 Ink Geyser. I never know how to pronounce this word. Each player exerts all cards in their inkwell. Then each player with more than 3 cards in their inkwell returns cards at random from their inkwell to their hand until they have 3 cards in their inkwell. This is such a spicy card, which gives you some extremely unorthodox lines, but it is, of course, uninkable. The only way of getting rid of it from your hand without playing it is from Tipo. So it's very risky, you know, without like Bobby, for example, being able to discard it. but it's going to be very good in specific matchups and can completely catch your opponent off guard, I'm sure. But it is also very risky because some games it's going to be disastrous and it's just going to be stuck in your hand, which when you play Clarabelle and you want to like empty your hand, excuse me, that can be quite sad. We've got Tobias on Blurple. This is probably the 8th place deck with 1 Tamatoa. Of course, Tamatoa can recur the Junior Woodchuck guidebooks. There's Monstro in here. There's Into the Unknown, of course, just 3 Demona, 1 Cheshire Cat, and 7 1-drops. Let's look at some of the top 16 decks which caught my eye, which are some of the more spicy ones. Another Ruby Amethyst deck. This one's got Vanellope von Schweetz in there. Only 3 Tinkerbell. I feel like the 4th Tinkerbell's got to be worth it. This is just such a good card. I like Lumiere as well. So I like the selection of 2 drops in this one. Diablo, Lumiere, Vanellope are all brilliant. Cheshire Cat, Peter Pan, preferred over Tinkerbell because it's a hero. There's some slight synergy with Hercules. Because Hercules reads, while this character is exerted, your other hero characters can't be dealt damage unless they are challenged. Not going to come up that often, but why not play Peter Pan instead of the Tinkerbell when there's no bluff threat of a shift Tink? And then They Never Came Back, which is a card we saw in a few of the other decks, which I didn't cover. Up to 2 chosen characters can't ready at the start of the next turn draw a card. This card looks pretty bad to the uninitiated, but it's a card which a lot of extremely good players are a big fan of. I remember that Jan Moy was playing this in their Blurple deck in Bologna, and of course Jan Moy now working for Ravensburg as a game designer. It is good because it basically changes the maths in a pinch, right? It's a similar effect to like the legendary Elsa. You can freeze your opponent's board. They think they're just going to be able to quest next turn to win, and then suddenly they can't. If you can apply enough pressure with your own questing, with removal, it is a way of winning games. It's a card which wins you games, and therefore 2 copies of it seems extremely reasonable. Emerald Sapphire for Kevin is another one I wanted to highlight in the top 16. Also on 2 Max Goof. Very, very interested to see that many players are utilising the Max Goof. I love the Donald Duck 5-drop. I would definitely be looking to play this card over the Max Goof, if I'm honest. But it's very, very interesting that a lot of players are gravitating towards Max Goof. There's also Stop Chaos in his tracks in the mix here, which is a Sing Together 8, return up to 2 chosen characters with 3 strength or less, each to their player's hand. 1 Bend to My Will, which is how I like to do it as well. Interesting that Max Goof is so popular in these Emerald Sapphire. And look, another one, and another Max Goof. I'm still extremely skeptical, but there we are. 2 Prince Philip, but 4 Malicious, Mean and Scary, and 4 of the Floodborn, Cindy and Donald. No sign of Hades, no sign of... what's the 6th drop? The Donald Duck 5-drop in this one. 3 Basil. I like the Develop Your Brain a lot as well. I would probably be trying to play 4 Develop Your Brains personally. Also, no sign of the Clarabelle 3. So, yeah, these decks are basically just trying to squeeze 60 cards in, and it's quite difficult to get everything in, right? Clarabelle 3 being like another thing that is a card I definitely like. I like the Develop Your Brains, right? So it's hard to fit everything, which again, this Max Goof, I hate it. I really don't like it. But clearly, a lot of people disagree with me because it's doing very well with the Max Goof. So clearly it's pulling its weight. 13th place, we've got an Amber Emerald deck from Jan. This one's got a Curse Merfolk, 3 Ladies, 3 Webbies, 3 Webby 1-drops and just 1 Shift. I think the Webby Shift was a bit overhyped at the start of the set, but it also, the meta moved more purple focused rather than Sapphire. Like the talk of the town when the set first came out was everyone was talking about Sapphire and Cinderella, but it's not actually as much Sapphire as we perhaps expected there to be. There's 3 Mowgli's, 2 Ursula, and there's Della Moon's Lullaby, which is similar to Painting the Roses Red. Chosen opposing character gets -2 strength until the start of your next turn and draw a card. Very, very nice with Under the Sea, but there's no Under the Sea in this build, so it's that's why there's only 1 copy of it. It's just a surprise option, I suppose. I like the Dapper Rascal as a one-off. I think it's a good card. I like the Scrooge. I like the Archetype. And another Amber Emerald deck to highlight from this one. 3 Scrooge in this one, 2 Ladies, 3 Chromicons, 2 Under the Sea. I do like the Under the Sea. And also Clarabelle. Definitely not something you see very often at all. But there's the 3-drop Clarabelle and the Shift Clarabelle, which is quite interesting. Also Prince Philip, almost as like a bluff, I guess. It can sing Under the Sea, but you're kind of bluffing that you might sing Malicious, Mean and Scary and Shift. Bit of a unorthodox build, this one. And then another Emerald Sapphire list I wanted to highlight. This one's playing Scuttle, which is a 5/5 with Ward. Don't hate it. Don't hate it at all. Would I rather play this or a Max Goof? Honestly, probably rather the Scuttle. I don't know. Like the Max Goof is higher ceiling, but 5/5 with Ward. You can't really go too wrong with that. It's going to be good against Blurple because it can't be hit by Hades and that sort of thing. It's probably going to be good in mirrors as well. Only 1 John Silver, so maybe a little bit weak to aggro, 2 Hades, 4 Prince Philip, 2 Develop Your Brain, but look at that, Spooky Sight. Not going to be weak to aggro with 3 copies of Spooky Sight to put all characters that cost 3 or less into the player's Inkwell face down and exerted. 1/1 jump, 2 dig a little deeper, so quite heavy on the uninkables this build. Very unorthodox, but very cool. Alright, so just to give you an idea of some of the other decks we didn't cover that did well, there was like a couple of purple steals in the top 16, which we didn't look at as well. And then we can see that there was like a decent variety of stuff which made the top 32. Let's just take a quick look at this Brainiac list because we haven't covered any in today's video. It's like a very slow, control-focused purple and green, where you play Amethyst Chromicon, draw with Clarabelle, bend to my will, and of course you've got the control of Prince Philip as well. It does seem like this deck is a little bit lacking. I think these decks maybe want to bring back the Hey. I loved the Hey in these builds previously. Webby does something similar, but I do wonder if you could just play both. Yeah. All right, on to the last tournament of the weekend. UK, Wakefield, 244 players. Big shout out to Ben from Ravensburger UK, who is a big, passionate Disney Lorcana player and working at Ravensburger and doing so much for the UK scene. These sort of events here are really, he's the main man behind them, at least that's my understanding. Yeah, huge shout out to Ben. He's been brilliant to work with, and yeah, can't say enough good things about him. But this one was taken down by David Fairweather, great name, and they were playing Blue Steel. So 3 blue decks winning, 2 Blurple, 1 Blue Steel. So maybe it really is the time of the Sapphire after all. Cinderella, big powerhouse in this one, of course. Develop Your Brain and Mulan for a decent amount of 1-drops. There's also a couple of Keyders. So a lot of the things I've been saying about these Blue Steel decks in the previous videos where I've said I would like to see a few more 4-drops. I would maybe like to see maybe some more 1-drops, like I think the Mulan's solid. I have to say I like this build. It's got a bit of consistency of the extra 1 jump ahead. There's some 1-drops. Develop Your Brain still in there. I like that there's a couple of Keyders at the very least. If anything, I would actually like to see a couple more Keyders. For a bit more consistency, but this deck did the business. Arthur as a one-off is fascinating. When you play this character, chosen character gains Challenger 2 and Resist 2, and can challenge ready characters this turn. With the Pluto, that's awesome as well, right? The Pluto Steel Champion as a one-off, which allows you to gain lore when challenging with Steel characters. 2 Spooky Sights, 4 Thunderbolts, 2 Beyond the Horizon, 2 Ink Runners, no strength. No strength, no aerial either. I gotta say, guys, I don't know about no strength, right? But I like the build overall. The aerial for me was like, I mean, a little bit surprising to see people so high up on the aerial when you have like Vincenzo and Headless Horseman. But it's very interesting. I gotta say, I quite like this build. 2 Ink Runners, which can give your characters alert. I think it's quite a cool build. Big shout out to them. And another shout out to James Burton, friend of the channel. He's someone that I've played against quite a few times in the UK. I was watching the final and very happy to see him doing so well on blue and green. Sapphire Emerald making it to the final of this one. Just falling short, though it was a 2-0 in the final. But Donald Duck and Cindy in the mix. We don't have any of the 5 cost Donald. There's no Max Goof in this one, though. I gotta say, I don't look at this list and think, oh, you know what would make this better? A Max Goof. I really, really don't. This one's very consistent with lots of 4-ofs. 2 Under the Sea, 2 Mother Knows Best, 1 Jump Ahead, 1 Bend to My Will. I like the build quite a bit. It looks good to me. Luna on Steel Amethyst. This one has the Tinkerbell, Timothy, Q Mouse, just 2 of each. There's 3 Olaf, 2 Doc. I gotta say I quite like the sound of 4 Olaf, 4 Doc. It's probably how I would go about it. 2 White Rose, 2 Demona, 4 Hades. Nice. We've got James Malloy, who finished top 32 in Bologna, and they were extremely close to making top 16 in Bologna. It was unbelievably fine margins. They got very, very unlucky. Someone that I've played against as well in my first ever Lorcana top cut game. So very, very strong player. And they played Amber Emerald, which is not what they played in Bologna. They played Purple Steel in Bologna. So a change of pace for James here. A great result with 3 Chromicons, 2 Under the Sea, 3 Delamoon Lullaby. Like as soon as you're playing the Under the Sea, this Lullaby card is great. They have 2 Raja, which is a 3/4 bodyguard, 4 Ursula, 4 Mowgli, so heavy on the Mowgli and Ursula. and also 4 Webbies, but none of the shift, which I quite like, to be honest. I could see, well, maybe I would argue that 1 Webby shift is worth it, for example, I think, if you're playing 4 Webbies. But Webby has great synergy with the Lady Decisive Dog, right? And it's just a nice control card that helps you clear up the board when you're going second. I really like the Webby 1-drop, and the shift Webby I really like. So I think if you're playing 4 Webbies, I think it's hard to argue against slotting in at least 1, if not 2, of the Floodborn, but particularly 1. I think 1 to 4 sounds like a great ratio that would be worth it in the long run. But big shout out to James. We've got Josh Fincher on Sapphire Emerald. He's also not playing Max Goof, but 4 Mother Knows Best. He's heavy on the Mother Knows Best, but he's also playing Clarabelle and Develop Your Brain. Again, I like the Clarabelle a lot. I really, really like the 3-drop Clarabelle. I like the Develop Your Brains. No Cindy is the only thing I don't like about this, but obviously Cindy's very expensive as well. So I would probably if you were to ask me for a cookie cutter version of this deck of what I would recommend of just 4 of everything, I would cut the 4 Mother Knows Best and put in 4 Cinderellas, and it would be something close to that. I would probably tweak it and try and fit in a couple of the 5-drop Donald Ducks as well. But that would be my sort of go-to opinion on how to build it. I really like the Develop Your Brain. I gotta say, I think it's very, very good. As soon as you're playing Develop Your Brain, it becomes very hard to fit much else. Cinderella in the mix here with 3 copies. John Silver in the mix. 1 Jump Ahead. 1 Dig a Little Deeper, 2 Develop Your Brains, 1 Bend, 2 Under the Sea. Again, I quite like this build. I think 4 Basil, 3 Hades seems pretty good as well. Quite like that approach. We've got Autumn on Amethyst and Steel with a couple of Demonas in there. 4 Olaf, 3 Doc, which I also think is super reasonable. They're on 4 Dumbo, 4 Hades, 4 Elsa, no Demonas in this one. A few more decks to look at. We've got Robert on Sapphire Emerald, and he's called it Judy's Cowshed. So Judy Hopps, 3/3 Detective. When you play this character, and whenever she quests, look at the top 3 cards of your deck, you may reveal a detective character and put it into your hand. How interesting. So what are the detectives? Well, there's Basil. There is this Basil. Of course, you've got the Shift Basil there as well, which is a combo I like. You've got the Basil Undercover Detective. I'm presuming that might be it. So, and of course, all the other Judys. So if you've got a Judy down on the board, and you haven't drawn any other detectives, you're going to have 3 Basils, 3 more Judys, that's 6. Oh, also the Donald Duck is a detective, so that's 9, 12, 16. So there's 17 detectives in total, so 16 detectives possibly to hit off Judy. You're going to be looking at 3 cards into your deck. So if you're looking at 3 cards, 16 of them, I'm trying to do some very quick maths. It sounds consistent. It sounds pretty consistent. You're going to hit it more often than not, right? It's over 50% to hit Judy. I don't have, trying to do the exact maths is going to be outrageous. I'm just going with the vibes because I'm a bit unsure, but I would say it's probably, my vibes tell me it's probably 65%. I could be totally wrong. It's somewhere between 50 and 75%, which is quite a wide range, but it's not bad, is it? It's not bad at all. But also not spectacular. I'm not too convinced it's worth playing, but it's certainly very, very spicy and interesting. And a big shout out to Robert for that. Very, very cool. Someone let me know the maths on Judy in the comments. I would be very interested. And then we've got, okay, I got excited. I thought it was my aggro build of Amethyst Emerald, but it's not. It's a slower build. It's not quite the Brainiac build. There's a mid-range deck, really, with Pull the Lever in the mix, which is a great card. Draw 2 cards, or each opponent chooses and discards a card, and the Wrong Lever combo. This combo was very good with Diablo, and I only liked it with Diablo because you could discard the Pull the Lever, so then to shift Diablo. But this is also potentially interesting with Scrooge McDuck, which can discard a card, right? Potentially with Bobby, which can discard a card. So I think that it's definitely a combo to keep an eye on moving forwards. This one's got 4 Webbies and 4 Shift Webbies, which is extremely heavy on the Shift Webbies. I think as time goes on, people are sort of reducing the count of the Shift Webbies, myself included, although I'm playing a game later with 4 of them in my deck. It's something I'll change moving forwards. But yeah, pretty cool build with a great result from Charlie. This finished 10th. Great result. Copite Stairs. Now, this is a problem because Copite, if you guys don't know, this means Liverpool fan. Liverpool football team, and I support Everton. So I dislike this deck. Let's move on. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. So Copite Stairs with Cinderella, with Donald Duck, with Prince Philip, 1 Jump Ahead, I like the build quite a bit. Like the main things missing from this, and it's impossible to fit everything, is Donald Duck 5 cost and Clarabelle 3 cost, which are definitely cards I would like to play if I could at all help it. But of course, it's impossible to fit everything, right? We've got Ulvulv, who I believe is from Finland. Big shout out to them. I could be totally wrong on that, but I'm pretty sure they're from Finland. No, they're not. No, they're not. I know who it is. It's the Norwegian champion. Ulvulv is the Norwegian champion. Sorry, mate. Great player. I knew I recognised the name, and I knew they were from the Nordic regions. But this is the player that beat me in the Norwegian Open final. They are brilliant. Such a strong player. I'm used to them playing, not green-blue, I think. Blurple, I played against them, red-blue. So, yeah, makes sense that they've switched off from red-blue and going to a similar style of deck in a sense, right? They also have one Max Goof, which is interesting. I definitely like one Max Goof more than I like two. It's not the worst, but I'm a bit, I don't need to talk more about it. 3 Mother Knows Best is heavy on it, but if you're playing a Max Goof, it makes sense to be heavy on it. I like to develop your brains. Again, the main things missing from this, the Clarabelle 3 drop, the Donald Duck 5 drop. Also Hades missing from this one, which I don't dislike not playing Hades, to be honest. I think it's a cool build. And finally, that's it. Well, I just thought we'd scan through and look at some of the other decks. I think we actually covered all of the top 16 in this one, but there was maybe a few decks missing. But yeah, we can see there was some other spicy decks which did quite well. But yeah, big shout out again to Card Market. Thanks to all the tournament organisers, all the judges for making everything happen, and of course all the players. I hope you had a good time watching today's video. Subscribe for more, give it a like, and see you for more Lorcana content soon. I am playing against Zach Bivens later, and I'll probably be posting a video about that pretty soon. Bye.